Game of Thrones spoilers on today's Wednesday morning drive. Skip to about 8 minutes if you don't want to see it. Hey everybody, Matt Cribbs here, and welcome to another Wednesday morning drive. How you doing? I'm doing great. It is a good day. It's getting close to being too warm, but so far it hasn't been yet. I think it's supposed to be 90s this afternoon, so we'll see. It's not that summer's bad or I don't enjoy the warmth. It's just I don't enjoy sweating all that much unless I choose to sweat. And when you work in an office building like I do, they have the air conditioning, which means you have to dress for the air conditioning, which means wearing enough clothes that you're not freezing inside the building. Side effect of that is when you go outside where there is no air conditioning, yeah, it gets warm and wet and not fun. But anyway, oh, the problems of having decent weather. I know, woe is me. So anyway, what I wanted to talk about today, and I swore I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to go into pop culture-y things. I wasn't going to go into very opinionated, polarizing statements, but I can't help myself. It is what it is. Today we're going to talk about Game of Thrones, and specifically Season 6, Episode 5, the one that aired last Sunday. So if you haven't seen it yet, been great talking to you, and we'll see you next week. Actually, no, this spoilery bit should only be about, fast forward to about 5 minutes in, and we'll be done with the spoilery part after that. So yeah, Game of Thrones, and Hodor, and his death. I didn't like it. Unlike, I believe, pretty much everyone else on the internet who is apparently of the opinion that this was a masterful scene that, captured, such strong emotion. It did not work for me. And I think, I've talked about it with some friends a bunch. I've talked about it with a bunch. And you know what? The scene itself, the setup itself was potentially powerful. Hodor, this gentle giant, this nice, simple person ends up sacrificing himself for the good of the party. Now, it could be argued that he's not actually sacrificing himself for the good of the party. Rather, Bran is making him do it. And basically, Bran is the jerk that causes all the problems in this story. But beyond that, it's a noble thing. He's sacrificed himself for that. And the fact that it is caused by Bran going back in time, and we'll get to that later, and Bran's realization that his causing this has an emotional punch. The part that didn't work for me, and the part that really ripped me out of the entire storytelling and ruined the whole scene, was the fact that they tried to tie that in with the name, Hodor, as a shortening of Hold the Door. And really, apparently there was a interview where they talked about how George R.R. Martin told them, this is what it was. And I would have been like, George, go back and try an idea that you didn't get when you were in 3rd grade. Because that is incredibly amateur, incredibly juvenile. Taking Hold the Door and morphing it into Hodor as a name. Number one, Hodor, a character that only says one thing, is borderline cheese to begin with, but it worked because it wasn't overused, and making that a focal point of such a potentially emotional scene, just it's like we didn't need that. It didn't add anything to the scene. It actually detracted from the scene. And worse, making the choice to take that actor, the young Hodor, and have him thrash around on the ground, yelling, hold the door, hold the door, hold the door, and gradually morphing it into the word Hodor was I mean, that never works. That never works. And it did not work on Sunday. It looked silly. It was ridiculous. It had, there was emotional punch turned into cringing at, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this. And it was unnecessary. Like, we got it. As soon as she yelled, hold the door, we got it. We understood that that was where he picked up the name Hodor from. We didn't need to see it. Sometimes they say show, don't tell, but imply, don't show is an even better term. It was like they're like, look how clever this not so clever idea is. And they took it and banged us over the head with the fact that this is how he got his name. Get it? Bang. This is how he got his name. Get it? Bang. It's like, yes, we got it. You don't need to take this club and bang us over the head with what you're trying to do. And if you came back at 5 minutes, I lied because we're still talking spoilers. Sorry. But yeah, so just, they could have done it so much better with a lot more subtlety. Any one of those, reducing, even if they wanted to have that, reducing it so that wasn't so much of the scene and going all the way from hold the door into Hodor and that whole thing. You didn't need it all. And it detracted from the scene, and it pretty much took the emotional punch out of the scene. And, that's it. That's where it is. That's how I feel about it. So, I've been called, I've been told I know nothing, of course, because, you know nothing, Jon Snow. So whatever. First one was mildly amusing. After the 24th or billionth person told me that, I'm like, yeah, that's funny. And, that I have no emotion and all that is like, no, that's not true. I understand how powerful that scene could have been. And I guess I'm so, frankly, pissed about it because it really did detract from what, and I'm like, you robbed the power of that scene for me with these bad execution choices. And that was really not the thing. But I think it's systematic. So spoilers done. I think what's happening, and it's kind of, systemic of a big problem that a lot of these epic stories have. And that's, they start off so strong. And Game of Thrones, the initial book, which I've read, TV series, which of course I've watched, all of those start off with so great a story, and they pull you in and they make you care about these characters, and they come up with these amazing plot twists and turns, and you're like, what's going to happen next? And then they go into this kind of wandering phase, which we're in now, where, the story's not really going anywhere. A lot of the growth that these characters have made has been reversed or gone full circle. Poor Daenerys, right, has gone from having no self-worth and no, prospects for the future other than to be married off, to gaining this power with Drogo and gaining this sense of, who she is, to leading after stepping through the fire and then losing it all and then building up and finding a cause and trying to deal with these massive political problems, which bogged down way too long. Anyway, just kind of languishing that plot arc in Marine and everything that's going on. Thankfully, the show has done it much less than the book. But now she went through fire again and is back to having her, the Dothraki with her. And it's like, okay, where is this story arc going? And where is everything going? And, there's a lot of story arcs doing that. Arya is a girl is kind of, it's kind of going somewhere. But it's like there's a victim of so much success. You try to make such a complicated world, and it just, at some point, the threads get all tangled together and lost, and the narrative, these are a story. It's a story we're being told, and there should be a narrative. A story has a direction. A story has a push. A story has a journey it's taking you on. And it seems like, our journey right now we're not moving clearly towards a destination. We're kind of wandering around. And it's where the books have been for the past couple. It's happening in the show, and it's like, you know, I hope things will be tied together well, and I hope things will, you know, come up, and this is just kind of the calm before the storm, and everything will tie together into a story. But even with all that, this is a low part, not emotionally low, not all that though, but like strength of story, low part of the story. There's not really a lot of focus going on in the Game of Thrones story with where we're at now. And I can't blame George R.R. Martin himself, although he did this, he wrote this, he got this into this way, but it seems to be a common trap for anyone who takes on one of these epic story worlds. It's happened to Robert Jordan with the Wheel of Time series. Oh my gosh, that was such a great concept. It was, you know, an incredibly detailed world. Perhaps, not perhaps, he had some really weak characterizations at times and over-reliance on just certain turns of phrase. But, you know, the concept of the magic system that he used and this world he had built was so unique and so incredible. And then it just bogged down and got stuck and never, you know, it just, it's like such a great slog. It's like they get in and they're like, let's go, and then the momentum stops and you don't know where to go from there, and the story kind of gets stuck. And you know, very few authors can pull it off or have pulled it off at this scale. I mean, I would say even Tolkien, even J.R.R. Tolkien, kind of the initial creator of some of this, I don't think he got bogged down in the storytelling, but I think he avoided that by not telling such an epic world-changing story. Yes, okay, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is, in its effects on the world, a huge story. But really, the story that's told is not. It focuses on a fairly small cast of characters and a fairly short sequence of events that culminate and have repercussions to have this massive effect on a massive world. But unlike George R.R. Martin, unlike, you know, Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire, Fire and Ice, I always forget which order it goes in. Unlike, you know, Robert Jordan, the Wheel of Time series, the scope of what they are telling as the characters, the story, is orders of magnitude bigger than what Tolkien tried to tell. And I think it's so difficult to the point that it's almost never done. In fact, I struggle to think of stories that are as epic as they have written that don't suffer from this from one extent to another. You know, if there are examples that you think successfully have pulled this off for a massively complex, multi-character story arc throughout you know, an epic world, and that haven't gotten bogged down, let me know in the comments, because I'm really struggling to think of them. And it's not unique to fantasy. It's not unique to so you could say maybe it's this epic fantasy genre and it's just that genre's weakness, but it's not unique to that. It's, you know, the reboot of Battlestar Galactica suffered from this as well. They had so much going on, and it's like each event one-upped itself and got bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it was so big and so complicated that there was no out. There was no satisfying resolution to these problems because, you know, I think at some level it's because the stories become so rich that they're a world in and of themselves. And guess what? Stories in the real world, history doesn't have these satisfying storytelling climaxes and plot lines that carry you through. So it's like these stories morph from becoming actual stories to becoming histories. And while history can be fascinating, history is rarely a very good narrative. So, you know, that's where it goes. And nor do I think it's unique to fantasy and science fiction either. I think Lost suffered a bit from this, although I think in that case its problem was a little different in that it was actually so clever and so subtle on a lot of things that a lot of people missed the point. So as opposed to and it's such an expansive world story, it suffered from just ambiguity. So, you know, strike that. Not a good example. But yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I really hope they can pull it together. I really hope that it's not going to be a, you know, weak ending or an unsatisfying conclusion. I'm really scared that there may be an over-reliance on time travel because it's a thing now in the universe. So, and that's a dangerous, dangerous tool for a storyteller to have. Few can be trusted with the power that time travel gives you to still produce logically consistent and satisfying endings from it. It's just, it's a giant undo do-over button. But we'll see. I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to hope it turns out right. But, you know, wow. There's a limit to what I can take, guys. Please, please, please don't have lost your way. So, hope you have a good week. I'll see you next week. Keep playing. I'm going to keep playing. Got some good stuff in the can, and it'll be out soon. So, later. Bye.